Hi, this is Brian Newberry with Project Wasabi. The story you're about to hear, City of Strivers, includes graphic violence and could be upsetting to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And now, Project Wasabi is pleased to present our spoken word audio adaptation of Robbery Homicide Division, Season 1, Episode 7, City of Strivers. The year is 2002, early November. There's a gentle breeze in the air, and for once, Southern California's late-night skies are cool and refreshing. Running east-west, Century Boulevard is the primary motorway leading to Los Angeles International Airport. Ultimately terminating in an industrial-sized cul-de-sac, the huge 6-lane boulevard slows traffic to a crawl among pickup and drop-off curbs before the gigantic gridlocked U-turn slowly redirects motorists back the way they came and out of the sprawling international complex. Within the 5-mile radius surrounding LAX, the urban landscape hosts an eclectic assortment of oil refineries, aerospace and research facilities, and other operations which benefit from close proximity to flight line operations. Worldwide storage, LAX Cargo Services, 3 Century Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90045. Warehouse number 15 is currently on fall schedule, day shift only from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. The enormous building is mostly empty of people, with the exception of one heavy-set corporate security guard. Corporal Clayton Ellis is an easygoing 41-year-old African-American man who stands 5'8" on a pleasantly well-fed 250-pound frame. Armed with a company-issued Ruger P95 semi-automatic pistol, the security guard's uniform is a short-sleeved, gray-pleated business shirt with black tie and matching black polyester work pants with plain black sneakers. At 11:38, just outside, 2 large, unmarked, white tractor trailers slowly enter the lot. One truck hangs back at the side of the driveway entrance as the other truck backs up to the loading dock with its rear doors open against the warehouse's cargo doors. With rehearsed movements, half a dozen Latino men jump out of the truck as the watchful driver up front stays in his seat and keeps the engine running. With crude black prison tattoos covering muscular shoulders, chests, and forearms, the 6 tall athletic men are lean and in good shape physically. Their baggy attire includes oversized black t-shirts, 2 wear football jerseys and the others are basketball fans. Several degrees hotter than just street smart, these gangbangers' demeanor suggests malicious intent, looking for trouble. Wordlessly, 2 of the men abruptly run north at top speed, sprinting through the shadows the complete length of the dark gray building. At about 500 feet, they dart left, rounding a concrete corner to the distant glass door entrance of the sales office, located on Century Boulevard, which, at this late hour, is as dark as the rest of the building. Back at the loading dock, the shortest man of the group, the only one with a full head of hair, takes out his cell phone and hits speed dial as the 3 others walk alongside him, their shaved heads shining in the moonlight. Approaching the building's exterior, one of the men takes out a drill and a lockpick set and begins working on the personnel door nearest their tractor trailer. Coordinating with other members, the man working the lock wears a small headset with a tiny mic beneath his lips. At the opposite side of the building, outside the glass door to the sales office, the taller of the 2 men takes out a handheld electronic device about the size of a TV remote. The alarm man powers on the device, causing a tiny amber-colored light to start blinking innocuously. Also wearing a headset with a mic, his shorter partner, the spotter, with his back to the building, looks out in all directions, fully alert for security personnel, warehouse workers, or any other potential witnesses. His taller friend, the alarm man, runs his device slowly along the top edge of the door frame. When its tiny light finally turns solid red, he knows they have successfully triggered the silent alarm at that location. He stows the device, and the 2 men quickly run back to the loading dock. Inside the building, having received the silent alarm, Corporal Clayton Ellis exhales a frustrated sigh and begins the long walk up a carpeted hallway which leads to the sales office. Outside near the south loading dock, Speaking on his headset,
we're entering the building.
The locksmith finally opens the door and escorts his fellow conspirators inside. At the opposite end of the building, heading north toward the sales office, the night watchman, with his cell phone pressed to his ear, speaks to his wife Patricia as he walks. He takes out his keys and opens the inside door to the sales office. On the phone, Patricia tells him to be careful as he scans the room with his flashlight. He looks outside the window at the parking lot and sees nothing. Carefully, Ellis opens the glass door. He comments to his wife they've been having problems with this door and he'll write it up in the morning.
Yeah, it's another. Third false alarm this week.
He comes back inside, closes and locks the sales office's north-facing door. He asks Patricia what she packed for his dinner. Turkey and stuffing sandwiches. They laugh. Big fans of turkey and stuffing, the Ellises see no reason to wait for Thanksgiving. Finishing his phone call, the night watchman tells his wife he loves her.
All right.
And heads back to the security office. But just as he rounds the corner, he's ambushed by a group of hard-looking thugs. Prison hard, all with shaved heads, worked-out muscles, gang tats, the works. Two of the thugs restrain Ellis's arms behind his back in a painful wrestling hold as a shorter man unsnaps the guard's holster and quickly removes his handgun. They confiscate Clayton's cell phone, his flashlight, and his handcuffs. Now stripped of all his resources, Clayton Ellis tries to use the only tool he still has, his memory. In the unlikely event he isn't killed before sunrise, the least he can do is tell cops who they're looking for in as much detail as he can remember. And as they take his wristwatch, he notices they're all wearing latex gloves. These are serious freaking guys. At least two have Glock 29s. So does... they're all packing Glock 29s. Behind Ellis, the two men release their wrestling hold, though he is still very much under their control and unable to escape. The man who took Ellis's pistol has a full head of hair, black or dark brown maybe, with an amateur haircut. While all the men have black tattoos, this dark-haired guy has one on his neck. Ouch.
Which wallet?
His wallet. Clayton's heart sinks. He knows they didn't come all this way for $14.
All right.
And with no options, reluctantly, Clayton Ellis removes his wallet and the gunman forcibly takes it from him.
Where's the wallet, Paul?
Opens it
and begins reading aloud
Clayton William Ellis.
Clayton
to
William
a
Ellis.
fourth man with a cell phone
Clayton William
who relays the guard's personal information to unseen forces.
9918 Figueroa, Apartment 3B.
9918 Figueroa, Apartment 3B.
as two more men walk in and guard the nearest exits.
3B.
Date of birth 12260.
DOB 12260.
Standing shorter than his comrades, but every bit as scary, the dark-haired guy, sociopathic criminal gang leader Jesus Termite Rosales, grabs Clayton by his windpipe and shoves him against the wall.
You have a family at 9918 Figueroa, Clayton?
A family. And holding the guard's own Ruger P95 pistol in his other hand, Termite leans in, pressing painfully its muzzle into the softness of Clayton's left cheek. And in a split second, Clayton spots a deep scar above the gunman's right eye. Almost looks like a third eyebrow.
All right, if you don't cooperate with us, we will kill you, and then we will kill them.
Clayton thinks about his Patricia.
If you help us out, then you will walk out of here alive.
What you want me to do?
Okay. Then you're supposed to call back the alarm company, correct?
Clayton nods compliance, and the four men hustle him down the hall to his security office. The last thing the security guard can see is the other two men are hotwiring the forklifts. After Clayton Ellis calls in the false alarm under duress, the burglars then stuff him into a maintenance locker where he has only enough room to stand among hanging cables and telescopic metal rods. Outside the loading dock, the cargo doors open, and inside the warehouse, the burglary crew begins operating the forklifts, creating a fully functional expressway inside. For the next hour, loading pallets of stolen merchandise into their waiting tractor trailer, standard rules of the road apply. Each forklift driver stays right of oncoming traffic. When the first truck is fully loaded, it swaps places with the other truck, and the Latinos continue working. With practiced efficiency, their truck is fully loaded shortly before sunrise. The burglars close and lock the back of their tractor trailer. They then return to the maintenance storage locker, extract the hapless security guard from their improvised jail, and begin walking them back to the loading dock where, just outside, their truck is waiting with its engine running. With 2 men on Clayton's left, a third on his right walking alongside the wall, following 2 more, the prisoner cannot see any means of escape. On his right, he notices the 6'1" thug is carrying a transparent bag with Clayton's wallet and cell phone. He's also carrying Clayton's Ruger pistol wedged in his belt at the small of his back. Walking toward the loading dock's enormous shipping doors, when they pass through a yellow metal safety gate, the group all come to a stop in front of another closet marked cleaning. Its door half open, exposing 2 cans of paint, a mop and bucket, and a trash can, behind which another inside door which is closed.
Hey, let me go. Hey, morning, Mr. Ellis. I can tie you up to a chair.
It's the short man with a full head of hair. He seems to be the leader of the group.
Check you up a little bit, slap you around.
With their work here complete, the general mood has gone from angry intimidation to that happy sense you get after a job well done.
Slap you around. That way you don't get busted for helping out.
Can we skip the slapping around part?
Maybe you just use the bathroom, huh?
You look tired. You want a cigarette?
You a cigarette, bro?
The grateful security guard takes one. On Clayton's left, as the man offers their nervous captive a light, the shorter burglar in front sidesteps to Clayton's right side and continues talking as he moves in behind the nervous guard.
Day shift will cut you loose in a couple hours, that's it.
As Clayton turns left and leans in to aim the tip of his cigarette to the lighter's flame,
Thanks.
he fails to see the short man, Termite Rosales, behind his right shoulder, aiming Clayton's own pistol at the back of his head, and later that morning, when the day shift security guard, Sergeant Dave Sheehan, arrives for his work shift, he stumbles onto a grisly image. The body of his friend and co-worker, Clayton Ellis, lying on the concrete floor, dead in a pool of his own blood. Sergeant Sheehan calls it in, and in just a few minutes he's met by airport police and paramedics, who pronounce 41-year-old Clayton Ellis deceased. Locking down the warehouse, the uniforms establish an official crime scene and notify detectives of LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division. When he gets the call, investigating officer Lieutenant Sam Cole is heading south on Cahuenga on his way into work. At this early stage, details are sketchy. The body of a security guard discovered in a warehouse near LAX. Pending confirmation from the coroner's office, the cause of death appears to be a single gunshot to the back of the head. Just like the others before it. Third such case in as many months, and the recurring variables are all too familiar. A warehouse guard during commission of a grand theft burglary between midnight and 6 a.m. A single gunshot to the back of the head. And if this is the same crew as the 2 prior cases, still open, these boys do cartridge killings, killing the victim with his own gun, which means tracing the single spent cartridge won't lead back to the burglars. It'll only trace back to the victim himself. Well, I know who the victim is. Detective Cole and his team are at 1025 to Worldwide Storage located on Century Boulevard near the airport. Police are currently taking witness statements. "45 minutes later, driving westbound on Century Boulevard, investigating officer Sam Cole spots Worldwide Storage up ahead on the left. The traffic light is already red, and with a flick of his turn signal, the 41-year-old Caucasian gets in the left-hand turn lane and, gently tapping his brakes, brings his plain black Ford Crown Victoria to a complete stop at the crosswalk. Waiting for the green arrow, he makes a quick visual scan of the parking lot off to his left in the distance. 3 airport police squad cars, the coroner's van, a news van with a dish on top, and 3 other privately owned vehicles, 2 of which he recognizes as belonging to detectives of his own squad. Sergeant Albert Sims and Detective Sonia Robbins must already be here. As is protocol, the entire parking lot is quarantined with yellow crime scene tape. Standing at the curb, a uniformed cop recognizes Sam Cole, and as the 2 men exchange a familiar wave, the red arrow turns green, the detective makes his left turn, and the uniformed cop lifts the yellow tape, granting him access. The senior ranking detective parks alongside one of the black and whites, sets his parking brake, exits the vehicle and begins walking toward the warehouse's front main entrance. The morning air is cool, and there's a slight smell of chemicals in the air, probably jet fumes. A plainclothes female cop exits the building carrying a clipboard in her left hand, a Latina with brown eyes. She has a low-maintenance brunette ponytail sticking out the back of her powder blue LAPD ball cap. Standing 5'7", 130 pounds, Detective Sonia Robbins greets Sam Cole with casual nod.
Morning, Sam.
And guides her immediate supervisor into the colossal structure. Investigating Officer Lieutenant Samuel Sam Cole, 5'8", 200, brown and green, a barrel-chested man with a powerful physique, a clean-cut face crowned by wavy brown hair cropped short and a no-frills barbershop haircut. He wears a dark gray sport coat, wine-colored tie, and a light blue business shirt over dark brown wool slacks. As he follows Sonia through the cavernous building, he notices three men standing talking together. From distance, the only man Sam recognizes is the detective from his own squad, an able-bodied 37-year-old white guy wearing a sport coat and tie with a pen in his right hand. Detective Richard Barstow stares down at his notepad, listening attentively as he interviews a skinny uniformed security guard next to an older man in civilian clothes. The investigating officer Sam Cole spots the security guard's holster is empty, no doubt testing the sidearm, see if it's been fired recently. Probably this is the guard who first discovered his dead colleague. But the city of LA doesn't pay Sam Cole to assume who found him, so he asks.
Who found him?
This guard is shut up for shift change.
This guy?
As they approach the three men talking together, Sam Cole greets his colleague, Detective Barstow. They continue walking as Sonia refers to the man in civilian clothes.
The other guy's the owner.
So, one shot to the back of the head?
With his own weapon. Sounds like the other cartridge theft cases to me.
Yep.
The investigating officer can already see the dead body near the wall. About 10 feet from a yellow metal gate, the deceased lays face down on the cold concrete near a cleaning closet, with his hands by his side, palms facing up toward the ceiling. Walking around the body looking down, another investigator from Sam's team photographs the prone body from multiple angles. Wearing an English-style brown tweed sport coat over a white business shirt and a wine-colored tie, a 55-year-old African-American detective, Sergeant Albert Sims, is a streetwise silent Buddha. Large in stature, 6'7" on a proportionate 240-pound frame. Short-cropped gray hair crowns a clean-shaven, square-shaped face with considerate hazel-brown eyes. All the nearby shipping crates feature the same corporate label, the familiar green icon of Jiffy Home Household Appliances and Hardware. Over near the cargo shipping doors, the forklifts are parked at odd angles, and on one of the driver's seats, a portable video player with dangling cables. Presumably the burglars spliced the video loop through the security cameras to get by the guard. The body lays not far from the half-open door of a cleaning closet. Could the killer or killers have been hiding inside? Snapping one last picture, Sergeant Sims exchanges a nod with Sam and Sonia, and as they approach looking down at the body, Sam reaches into his pocket and removes a pair of white latex gloves.
So, one shot to the back of the head?
With his own weapon. Sounds like the other cartridge theft cases to me.
Yep.
The ranking man gloves up. Now the taller man, Sergeant Sims, takes out his notebook, writing down his boss's verbalized observations. Sam stoops down, gently grabbing the victim's left hand and turns it over.
No marks.
Then the investigating officer drops to all fours, puts his head down so his ear is touching the floor, and stares directly at the victim's face.
His face is unmarked.
Sam stands up and moves around to the other side of the body as Albert Sims writes in his book, face unmarked. Occupational habit, Detective Sonia Robbins glances back at her fellow detective Richard Barstow, now speaking with the security guard on his left and the owner of Worldwide Storage on his right. Barstow and security guard exchange a friendly nod, guard leaves, and then there were two. Robbins turns her attention back to Sam Cole, who's now bending down to closely inspect the single bullet hole in the back of the victim's head. The investigating officer stands back up and stares at the body, thinking aloud.
They must tell him just to do what they say, so he does the work, and then boom. No witness, they kill him.
And as Sam takes off his latex gloves, From behind an 8-foot-tall stack of sealed Jiffy Home boxes, another plainclothes detective enters the scene. A bald Asian American whose pencil-thin mustache complements his rail-thin physique. Detective Ron Liu is greeted by his supervisor.
Hey, what'd it take?
Washing machines.
Washing machines.
Stepping into the circle of his colleagues, 52-year-old Detective Ron Liu's relaxed, graceful walk suggests a background in the dance, or more probably martial arts training. Detective Ron Liu's arms both hang limp by his sides, a smartphone in his left hand, casually held level with his hip as he speaks.
Washing machines. Expensive ones.
The African-American detective,
They took stereos and TVs on the first one.
the big man, Sergeant Sims, taps pen against notebook,
Motorcycles on the second.
and Ron Liu agrees.
High fensibility.
20 feet in the other direction, having concluded his interview with the owner, Detective Richard Barstow comes over to join the group, now standing in a circle around the body of the dead security guard, Clayton Ellis. Curious, the lead investigator plants hands on his hips.
What do they do with washing machines? Anyone who says money laundering is fired.
The other Caucasian detective, Richard Barstow, looks up from his notebook.
Owner's offering $50,000 reward.
$50,000. A substantial amount for most people. In practical terms,
That's like 2 years of this guy's pay.
Show me care.
like most global hubs, Los Angeles International Airport is kept alive by a tight-knit community of hourly wage employees and independent contractors. Taxi drivers, reservation clerks, janitors, skycaps, food and concession, car rental agents, and of course, security guards. The tragic news of Clayton Ellis travels fast, especially when it's propelled by a $50,000 reward. Later that day, on the other side of the railroad tracks, the afternoon's long shadows add to the general despair of the Imperial Gardens affordable housing projects. A depressing cluster of block-shaped apartments tagged with graffiti, broken windows, and dotted with personally owned vehicles in various stages of disrepair. Some missing wheels, others abandoned. Right this moment at Building 5, inside Apartment C, home security is just a superstition. The tiny one-bedroom apartment is dark, with the blinds drawn. Their flimsy front door is chain-locked, as is the back door in the kitchen, where 46-year-old Alma Ortiz cooks dinner. Having just gotten home from school for the day, her two boys are inside where it's safe. 16-year-old Manny has finished his homework and is rewarded with his handheld video game at the dining room table, which separates kitchen from living room, as his little brother, 7-year-old Gus, helps Mama set the table. In the living room, Alma's husband, 51-year-old Guzmano Ortiz, a janitor at Worldwide Storage, sits in his old, tattered recliner, listening as his 46-year-old friend, warehouse worker Oscar Gonzalez, tries passionately to convince Guzmano to do something. A guest in Guzmano's home, the warehouse worker lowers his voice for privacy. Oscar is pleading, "Let's do this now." Finally, they are in a unique position to get justice for their friend Clayton Ellis and improve their own lives in the process. All legal. So where's the downside? The downside is Termite Rosales' crew kills those who cross them. But Oscar persists. They can't kill us if they are in the slammer, and we are over 1,000 miles away. And remember, money equals options.
$50,000 split 2 ways. Mira, we can take the killers off the street. You can move your family. Your sons can go to a school where they can learn. Do you believe that things happen for a reason?
I don't know.
I do. They shot Ellis like a dog.
His heart riddled with love and fear.
I know.
Instinctively, Guzmano Ortiz looks at his boys in the kitchen.
I know.
Don't you want to do something about it?
I pray for you.
I pray for you? Oscar, too, is a God-fearing man, but he was hoping for something a little more legally evidentiary. For the next hour, the two men continue this back-and-forth ping-pong. Oscar's encouragement to work with the police and collect the reward against Guzmano's fear of gang reprisal and death. Later that evening, Headquarters, LAPD, 100 West 1st Street, downtown Los Angeles, 90012. Robbery Homicide Division's open area office space takes up the entire 4th floor of this building. As with any murder investigation, all evidence collected, forensics, pictures, fingerprints, bullet casings, is organized into a single 3-ring binder commonly known as the murder book. Information is continually added until there's enough evidence to file charges, at which point copies of the murder book are provided to the district attorney's office, who in turn furnishes a copy to the suspect's defense attorney. In the professional world of 2002, the internet is in its infancy, text messaging even more so. And depending on those to whom you want to reach out, very often old school connections are still done through telephone and fax machine. Operating at a capacity which is barely lawful, criminal informants, in exchange for a fee and immunity from prosecution, can often provide police with valuable information on crime activity to which the authorities would not otherwise have access. The thin, bald detective Ron Liu pockets his little black book of known fences, stands up, reaches both hands toward the ceiling, and enjoys the brief stretch for about 5 seconds before sitting back down at his desk. For the past hour, the Asian American lawman has been putting out the word, hoping to learn if there's some black market for washing machines, and if so, who's buying? Yes, as in laundry. No, not coin-op, the fancy type used in someone's house, and the expensive ones with timers, humidifiers, water temperature. While Lou's on the phone, the switchboard operator tells Richard Barstow she's got a lead on the airport murder, and he tells her to put it through his desk phone, line 2. Quickly, the 37-year-old detective grabs a pen and a blank 302 interview form as he jabs line 2 and lifts the receiver to his ear, identifying himself by name.
Barstow.
A brief set of routine questions establishes Barstow speaking with 51-year-old Army veteran Mel Kamensky, calling from a payphone at LAX Terminal 3. Writing on the form, Barstow annotates the time as 8:22 p.m. and tells the witness he appreciates the phone call. The caller tells Barstow the dead body they have in the morgue is not who they think it is. In fact, the cadaver was replaced after the robbery, but just before the day shift security guard called police. A moment's silence, then the detective asks the caller if he personally witnessed this himself. The caller says he saw it on video. Asked where this video came from. On the phone, the witness explains that for the past year and a half, he's been intercepting non-classified data transmissions from an Air Force satellite which spun out of orbit back in March of 1993.
Wait, no, hold on a second. The information you just gave me, you're saying you got it from a satellite?
The caller says, technically, when it left Earth's orbit, it was no longer a satellite.
From outer space?
Well, yes.
Thanks for the call.
Fortunately, using his list of criminal informants with a focus on the black market, Ron Liu's search has yielded greater results. And when Lieutenant Cole enters...
Anything?
Sitting at his desk, the bald detective looks up at his immediate supervisor.
Russia is the most lucrative place to move high-end appliances. Mobsters have cash, but they're strapped for infrastructure. Appliances sell for way over market value. How would it go? The docks.
The docks? The Russians want our washing machines? Standing comfortably with his hands on his hips, Sam Cole considers this. Stolen merchandise, washing machines, going out through shipping channels through Long Beach Port Authority or possibly next door at San Pedro, and ultimately ending up in Russia? Admittedly, Ron Liu is the resident expert on organized crime outside U.S. borders, but this is something the investigating officers never heard of. When Sam looks at Detective Richard Barstow, the frustrated 37-year-old shakes his head.
I got 5 people selling out their relatives for the reward money. I got 1 guy receiving information from an orbiting platform.
Get him in here.
A much-needed moment of levity as the 3 men look up to see Detective Sonia Robbins step off the elevator, escorting 2 Latino civilians of average height and build. Each man wears a green visitor's badge. Middle-aged, skilled labor, probably blue-collar workers. Near Ron Liu's desk, where the 3 men are speaking, Richard Barstow hands his boss a small slip of paper.
And this. Teenagers on the bluffs over Imperial Highway saw 2 tractor trailers. Right place, right time.
Description?
White.
White? Wow.
While the cops compare notes, they notice Sonia guide the 2 visitors into a meeting room. As the 2 civilians sit at the same side of a long conference table, she says something to both men, who politely shake their heads no. Meanwhile, speaking to Sam Cole about those teenagers who saw the 2 tractor trailers, Richard Barstow gestures back at the computer on his desk.
I'll run a CAD search on white trucks, cross it with cartage theft.
Weirdos and reward seekers.
At his own desk, Detective Sims rises to his full 6'7" stature and puts on a dark blue sport coat just as Sonia Robbins exits the meeting room and from across the brightly lit 4th floor makes eye contact with Sam Cole. Excusing himself from the impromptu meeting, when Cole walks towards her, Sonia Robbins meets him halfway, and the two stand speaking together near the fax machine. Referring to the partially filled out 302 interview sheets in her left hand, Sonia Robbins lowers her voice.
Okay, I don't know how real this is, but 15 minutes ago, these 2 guys show up.
Glancing over her shoulder, Sam spots the 2 men.
The one on the left is a janitor at Worldwide, Guzmano Ortiz.
The guy on the left is Ortiz.
The other guy was with him. Oscar Gonzalez.
The younger man, Gonzalez, on the right. She hands him the paperwork. Sam bumps a gentle fist into her shoulder. Good job. And with a nod to Detective Sims, heads over to where the 2 wits are sitting. The 2 witnesses sit side by side facing Sam as he enters the room, leaving the door open, pulls out a chair, and takes a seat. The elder man on the left, Ortiz, is in his early 50s, balding with just a few remnants of brown-gray hair around the sides of his head. On the right, his friend Gonzalez, about 5 years younger, his thick, curly black hair just starting to gray at the temples. With friendly demeanor, Sam breaks the ice by drumming his hands on the table. Just as a giant wordlessly enters the room, a 50-something African-American detective wearing a dark blue sport coat nods politely to the 2 wits and remains standing just inside the open door, as his boss, still seated, points to the man on his right.
Mr. Ortiz?
But on Sam's left, the real Ortiz.
I am.
Nervously lifts a hand. Sam, on his side of the table, slides one of the sheets to his right and looks directly at the younger man.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Oscar nods his head, yes.
I'm Lieutenant Cole.
Handing the sheet to the big man behind him.
This is Detective Sims.
Sam smiles at Gonzalez.
He'd like to speak with you in the next room.
Naturally, the 2 friends exchange a quick glance, then Oscar Gonzalez gets up and exits the room with Sergeant Sims, who closes the door behind them. Now alone with Guzmano Ortiz, the investigating officer takes out a pen and centers the 302 interview sheet on the polished wood surface before him.
So, you saw what happened?
No, exactly. I wasn't supposed to be there.
In the 302's notes section, Sam writes, "Not scheduled, off the clock."
But I had a Lakers cap for my son that I left there.
Went to retrieve a forgotten Lakers cap for his son.
And we saw the men with Ellis.
Sees multiple men surrounding a security guard.
Then there was a closet inside the closet, and I pulled Oscar inside.
Ortiz grabs his friend Gonzalez. Both hide in closet.
Okay.
His friend Gonzalez, now on the other side of the 4th floor, covering the same ground with Sergeant Sims, who says,
Now, in a moment, I'm going to show you a group of photographs. Now, this group of photographs may or may not contain a picture of the person who committed the crime now being investigated.
Meanwhile, back at the conference room, Sam Cole opens a manila folder and removes a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of glossy paper with 6 small black and white mugshots, 3 on top, 3 on the bottom. And just before he hands the sheet to Guzmano,
I want you to keep in mind that hairstyles, beards, mustache, things of that nature can be easily changed.
synchronized with Sam Cole's interview, at this moment, back in the other office, Detective Sims hands the same page of mugshots to the wit he's interviewing, Oscar Gonzalez.
I want you to take your time.
Instantly, Gonzalez jabs an index finger at the last face in the sequence.
This one.
Mugshot number 6, bottom right. It's the face of that short man with full head of hair who shot security guard Clayton Ellis.
He was closest to me.
The wit's eyes glued to mugshot number 6.
I saw the tattoo on his neck.
Just as Detective Sims notes this witness identification on his 302 sheet, at this very moment in the conference room, seated with Sam Cole, 51-year-old Guzmano Ortiz takes his time, thoughtfully considering all 6 faces. A thin gold chain peeks out from the collar of his faded green polo shirt. Finally, the Worldwide Storage janitor points to mugshot number 6, the short man with a tattoo on his neck. Scary looking, small scar above his eye, the only one in the group with a full head of hair. When he hands the glossy page back to Sam Cole, no need to look at the name behind the picture. Most veteran detectives of LAPD, Sam Cole among them, are well acquainted with gang member Jesus Termite Rosales. A history in and out of juvie, and once he became an adult, 5 stints at LA County, but always just barely skirting serious charges due to one loophole or another. Fortunately, with Termite's sizable rap sheet, cops get an instant warrant as a parole search, no questions asked. Containing his excitement, Detective Cole smiles gratefully at the wit Guzmano Ortiz.
Thanks.
With not a moment to lose, Sergeant Sims double-checks their contact information and gratefully sends the 2 wits on their way, so detectives can pay a visit to the home of one Termite Rosales, maybe get a 29-year-old criminal on a parole violation and bring him in for questioning. But Termite Rosales, an experienced felon, is considered armed and dangerous, and the investigating officer tells Detective Robbins to assemble a SWAT unit.
Have an SU team pull together
to provide their team with armed escort. Parole search. When Detective Richard Barstow cannot find his talcum powder, Ron Liu hands him a small bag, says use it in good health. Although there's no evidence to suggest Termite has violated any housing codes or committed real estate fraud, it is suspicious that, unlike most gang members, Termite Rosales lives comfortably, if not conspicuously, in a swanky hilltop community in Toluca Lake. 10 p.m., Hollywood Hills, about a mile west of the famous Hollywood sign. An LAPD helicopter hovers quietly above the residence of Jesus Termite Rosales. 5,000 feet below, with 3 officers per vehicle, 3 unmarked units followed by 2 black and whites picking at the rear, all silently parked beneath the horizon and just down the hill from the sprawling ranch-style house inhabited by Termite Rosales and his baby mama, Rosie Alvarado. On the street, full stealth mode for the moment. Radio silent, smartphones on mute, no headlights or sirens. Quietly exiting their squad cars, cops gently close their car's unlocked doors. Silently, with weapons drawn, safeties off, 10 highly trained, tactically equipped LAPD SWAT members, dressed head to toe in black Kevlar, very quietly fan out in front of Sam Cole and his detectives, each of whom wears a dark blue LAPD windbreaker over an Armadillo P350 body armor vest. Wordlessly, SWAT team members alert each other as each cop visibly points his index finger at the bald man in the carport. Casually smoking a cigarette, the young man focuses on a large window affording him a clear view inside the house of the football game on the big screen TV in the living room. Apparently not yet aware of police presence, the skinny Hispanic 20-something wears only a pair of very long, baggy shorts, their cuffs just below mid-calf. His loose belt hangs down, exposing the top of white boxer shorts. His bare back showcases a single black tattoo, prison style, of the sad clown holding a smoking gun. A large tear drops from his eye, his mouth curved down in mock grief. And just like Termite Rosales, this bald kid also has a black number 13 tattooed to his neck. Smaller tattoos spot his bald head, arms, and presumably his chest as well. Detective Barstow identifies the kid as a known gang member and a relative of the house occupant, Termite Rosales.
It's his brother.
Huh? As the Kevlar-clad officers cautiously approach the house, Sam Cole orders a 20-year-old to stay put.
Stay there, kid. Right there.
And the large African-American detective, Sergeant Sims, hangs back with the youth to ensure the kid does not interfere with cops' task at hand. Calmly looking over the gangbanger's tattoos, the 55-year-old detective asks about the kid's initiation into the life.
So, when you jumped in, huh? So get your tats. What's your street name? Come on, mijo, give it up.
Call me Sleepy.
At the house, the investigating officer stands just right at the front door as SWAT team members are now covering all possible exits, with 2 staying close to Sam Cole, who's never been a big fan of the doorbell.
Police and parole, open up.
Back at the carport, Detective Sims admonishes Termite's little brother, Sleepy.
I hope you wake up one day soon, little sleepy man.
With with about a dozen heavily armed officers safely guarding the house. Sims gestures, "Get out of here." Sleepy bolts, and the big man draws his own sidearm and carefully walks toward the front door, where his immediate supervisor, Sam Cole, is standing.
Police and parole, open the door. Parole search.
Sam Cole holds his pistol at face level, his arms extended forward with a slight bend at the elbow, the cool, talcum-powdered palm of his right hand wrapped comfortably around the gun's black, rubberized grip, all of which is cupped in his left hand for added stability.
Finally, an incensed Termite Rosales opens the front door, where he's staring down the working end of Sam Cole's Beretta 9mm semi-automatic. Instinctively, the 29-year-old parolee's hands both fly up.
I'm just chilling. Back up.
The suspect takes 3 steps back, and Sam does same, allowing SWAT team, weapons hot, to methodically pour into Termite's house, and one by one verbally confirm each room as clear of potential threats. To keep the suspect off balance, officers have the 29-year-old spread his feet and gently lean his head against the wall. Hands behind his back as he's handcuffed, stood upright, then turned around to face the detectives.
This is harassment, Hall. Parolee of the year.
Detectives Robbins, Sims, and Barstow each holster their sidearms, but Detective Lou keeps his own gun in hand, safety on. Sad, such a beautiful home wasted on such a degenerate criminal. The picturesque living room's floor-to-ceiling windows provide a breathtaking view of the twinkling stars above the city lights below, stretching away miles into the distance. Thoughtfully placed artwork decorate the walls. Stylish new furniture. Obviously, this house is owned by someone else.
Calmly, Detective Sims sidles up to the investigating officer.
Hey, LT, check this out.
With Sam Cole holding Termite firmly by his bicep, the 2 men follow Sergeant Sims into the enormous master bedroom. Yet more enticing views of the twinkling cityscape below. A full head-to-toe ceiling mirror suspended above a king-sized bed. Then, a large, conspicuously new wall-mounted HD TV. Its flat cardboard shipping box immediately beneath it, leaning against an oak wood chest of drawers. Small bits of styrofoam and other packaging litter the carpeted floor within a 3-foot radius, with 4 identical boxes, sealed and unopened, leaning against the nearest adjacent wall. In the far corner near the bathroom, more unopened boxes of assorted shapes stacked neatly with the smallest items on top. Humorously, Sergeant Sims nicknames their current location
The burglary are us room.
Wow.
Speaking to the parolee, Sam Cole hooks a thumb at the TV on the wall.
You got a receipt for this?
Defiant Termite Rosales gets up in Sam's face.
Got a receipt for your TV, Cole?
Yeah, I do.
Smells very slightly of tequila and cigarettes.
Cole walks Termite back into the living room, where, holding a baby wrapped in a soft blue blanket, the other occupant of the house, Rosie Alvarado, sits in a brown leather armchair near the window. When Sam Cole releases his grip on Termite's arm, the gang member steps away, but instead of going to comfort either baby or mama, the 29-year-old simply leans against the living room's unused fireplace. As Rosie tries to console their baby.
You just got to sleep.
A tough night.
Yeah, I bet you did. Where were you last night, Termite?
I was with the baby. He was colicky.
You were with the baby?
Sam Cole leans in close, his chin 1 inch above Termite's left shoulder.
How could you do this to him?
Do what?
Let him grow up without his daddy.
And with that, a shackled Jesus Termite Rosales is taken outside to the waiting squad cars. The following morning at the LA Superior Courthouse in downtown LA at the corner of First and Hill, in courtroom J254, the Honorable Tina Stone, a 50-something blonde, closes a thick manila folder and hands it to the tall African-American bailiff, who takes it dutifully and gives her back a new manila folder in return. The digital clock on the right side of her desk reads 9:45 a.m., and Judge Stone sizes up the 2 counsels before her. At the prosecution table to her left, Judge Tina Stone recognizes Assistant DA Yolanda Lawrence. The 40-year-old Japanese-American from Ithaca, New York, sits quietly reviewing her information. Looking to her right, Judge Stone regards another lawyer with whom she is well acquainted, defense attorney Elliot Ayers, a smarmy-looking 52-year-old white guy. Among staff at the courthouse, Ayers has a reputation as a whiner, forever unfairly victimized by evil authorities who are out to get him. It's now 9:46 a.m., and this ill-prepared defense attorney has come to the end of his 15-minute recess as his shackled client is escorted back into the courthouse by supersized sheriff deputies who quietly instruct the inmate to take a seat next to his lawyer. Admittedly, no one appears his best in one of those bright orange short-sleeved jumpsuits, but this miscreant looks especially menacing. This repeat offender has one of those mugs that, when relaxed, falls naturally into an aggressive scowl. In the gallery at the rear of the courtroom, 3 plainclothes cops with non-expressive, clean-cut faces, 2 30-something white guys, and a slightly older African-American man. Short haircuts, all 3 men alert and comfortable in their off-the-rack sport coats and neckties of varying subdued earth tone colors. After quickly checking her case file, Judge Stone looks at the defendant.
Mr. Rosales, this is the time and the place for your preliminary hearing.
Standing at the defense table,
Mr. Ayers, are you ready?
Attorney Elliot Ayers gestures to a nearly empty folder.
No, Your Honor.
As, sitting to his immediate left, his orange-clad client scowls at the floor.
The only reason my client is here is because he is the focus of a robbery homicide division investigation. There's absolutely no evidence that he actually...
Prosecutor Yolanda Lawrence stands.
Your Honor, we have 2 eyewitnesses.
Well, there's only a vague reference to witnesses in what we've been given.
Has counsel been given all the discovery in this matter?
They haven't received the complete murder book, Your Honor.
Will you get that done, please?
Yes, Your
With a respectful nod to the judge,
Yes, Your Honor.
the prosecutor sits down at the DA's table as, still standing, defense attorney Elliot Ayers holds up a small stack of documents.
Your Honor, may we take up my motion 1538.5 to dismiss?
Which he gives to another bailiff, who carries it to the bench and hands it to Judge Stone, who begins reading. The defense attorney resumes his seat.
Who's the I.O.?
Lieutenant Cole, Your Honor.
Lieutenant Cole?
In the gallery, Sam Cole rises and steps forward to the DA's table, sitting down just right of prosecutor Yolanda Lawrence.
It says here you conducted an illegal search of Mr. Rosales' residence using the fig leaf of parole compliance.
Interrupting,
Your Honor,
defense attorney Elliot Ayers stands.
Lieutenant Cole set his sights on Jesus Rosales, then went looking for evidence. It's a classic case of my client being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
What wrong place was he in?
Elliot Ayers sits back down.
Los Angeles.
Lieutenant Cole.
Cole stands up and rests his hands on his hips.
Your Honor, we conducted a legal parole search.
At the bottom of his wine-colored tie, its point hangs at the exact center of his belt buckle, about 4 inches left of which his brass LAPD badge is clipped to his black leather belt.
Premeditated parole search. Everything was done by the book. Our witnesses are good, and each of these robberies ended in a premeditated, cold-blooded execution.
Ayers stands back up.
Even the heinous nature of the crimes does not justify using the parolee population as a
ADA Lawrence stands.
suspect who conveniently have no
The
right.
defense attorney leans forward so he can see Sam Cole about 10 feet to his right.
Now, Lieutenant Cole, you put your thumb on the scale of justice and shortchanged my client.
Both opposing counsels sit back down.
Lieutenant Cole,
As Lieutenant Cole stands up,
did you put your thumb on the scales of justice?
just long enough to say,
No, Your Honor, I did not.
before resuming his seat.
Okay. I'm going to continue this preliminary hearing until all the documentation is handed over. Then we can reconvene.
Considering the prosecutorial misconduct, we would request minimum bail.
Bail is set at $1 million.
Termite's head drops into his chest. From the right side of the prosecution table, Cole turns to look back at his fellow officers Sims and Barstow, both nodding, good. The younger of the 2 men, Barstow, with a knowing smile, gives Sam a thumbs up, and Cole discreetly returns the gesture. The following morning at the Imperial Gardens Affordable Housing Projects, it's about 8 a.m. and crossing the parking lot on foot, a squad of 5 or 6 gang members can be seen walking toward the residence of witness Guzmano Ortiz. The 51-year-old janitor got home from work about an hour ago, and inside the ground-level 1-bedroom apartment, Alma tucks him into bed and takes a moment to close the shades, hoping to keep the room as dark as possible so her husband can sleep.
To this endeavor, beneath the bedroom window, Guzmano's alarm clock radio serenades the grave shift worker pleasantly with the sounds of the ocean, surf, breeze, and seagulls.
Alma closes the door quietly and returns to the kitchen, happy to see Manny and his little brother Gus, both enjoying their new type of cereal. When she sees Manny's orange juice is low, 3 men break in the front door. Guns drawn, furious-looking gangbangers violently shove Alma and the boys into their tiny kitchen, where pressing the steel into the terrified woman's face, they order her to go back to Mexico right now. Suddenly, 2 more thugs break in through the back door. Even with a gun pressed to her face, Alma tries to warn her husband. But when 2 gunshots ring out from the bedroom, Alma crumbles, literally collapsing to the ground in anguish, as her boys both cover Mama with their arms, instinctively trying to shield her from harm. But with their task now complete, the hitmen are already filing out the back door in the kitchen, as the last man out turns around, looks at Alma,
Leave here, nothing will happen.
and coldly smacks the dining room table with a stack of cash.
God forgive us for your tears.
God forgive us for your tears? No, really? Either way, Alma takes the warning seriously. She pockets the cash, grabs Manny and Gus, and, in fear for her life, forever flees this tiny 1-bedroom terror. In the projects, gunfire is not an uncommon occurrence, and many residents simply lock their doors and mind their own business. By the time someone calls police, a faraway Greyhound bus is hurrying Alma and her 2 boys south on Interstate 5, bound for Mexico and points east. During this time, back at Robbery Homicide Division, detectives Ron Liu and Richard Barstow are working with Organized Crime Task Force, OCTF, waiting for the stolen washing machines to show up at one of the shipping ports or any legal port of entry. 10 a.m. At the Imperial Gardens Affordable Housing Projects, uniformed officers quarantined the ground floor 1-bedroom apartment with a perimeter of yellow crime scene tape and begin taking measurements and prepping the area for forensics. Robbery homicide detectives Albert Sims and Sonia Robbins arrive just a few minutes later, get the turnover from uniforms, and begin going door to door, taking statements from the neighboring wits who may have seen or heard something. Inside the last known residence of the Ortiz family, Detective Sam Cole checks out the kill zone. The blinds are drawn, darkening the couple's bedroom, and instead of disturbing the evidence by turning on a light switch, Sam reaches into his sport coat, takes out his handheld mag light, and before entering the room, stands in the doorway and scans the interior. Standard working-class bedroom. 2 modest night tables flank either side of the couple's queen-size bed, on which the half-covered body of Guzmano Ortiz lies face up. Inert brown eyes, wide open, their lifeless gaze fixed on the ceiling. On Guzmano's side night table, a handheld mirror, a deodorant, and his cell phone. On the far side of the bed, an alarm clock radio centered on a chest of drawers beneath the window. Sam aims his light at the body, an ugly crimson stain on the victim's chest, roughly the size of a hand towel. Entering the room mindfully, Sam notices at the center of the stain 2 bullet holes only an inch apart. Such close proximity suggests 2 gunmen aiming for center mass, firing simultaneously before Guzmano had a chance to react. As opposed to one shooter firing multiple shots, typically strikes different parts of the body as the victim tries to flee. Having wrapped up their field interviews with neighboring wits, Detectives Sims and Robbins now stand quietly in the brightly lit hall, watching as their boss, never touching the bed, leans in close to the victim's face. No longer tucked under his collar, Guzmano's gold chain shines in the glare of Sam Cole's maglite. His St. Christopher amulet rests on the white cotton fabric of the immigrant's t-shirt, just above the huge bloodstain. St. Christopher, the patron saint of travel. 20 minutes later, medical examiner staff use a gurney to transport the loaded body bag out to the waiting coroner's van. And immediately behind them, Sam Cole, Sonia Robbins, and Albert Sims have questions.
This man's name and address were supposed to be confidential.
Somebody slipped with the Termites crew.
I want to know who.
Trash on the ground includes fast food cups, motor oil containers, cigarette butts, and candy wrappers. Angry-looking graffiti tags nearly every surface, gang-style propaganda reminding residents who's in charge. regarding the previous cartridge theft involving stolen motorcycles in neighboring Orange County. Earlier, Sonia Robbins said an informant at the OC County Clerk's office suggested that, although nothing was proven, the Orange County DA might have dropped the case because the prosecutor was bribed.
We got a county clerk's cousin lives in the hood. Someone taking a bribe in the DA's office. Check out their lawyer.
Check out the lawyer. Pen in hand, Sonia Robbins makes an entry in her notebook.
I'm on it, Sam.
With a question mark, she writes the word bribe, then stolen motorcycles, check out the lawyer.
Slowly making their way out of this sad maze of three-story apartment buildings. As they head back out to their unmarked squad cars parked curbside, the three walk along a tiny concrete walkway with clotheslines on either side of their path, where recently washed shirts, pants, and dresses inhale gently with every breeze, and exhale with the next, as they hang dry in the type of direct sunlight so enjoyed by sleeping pets. With the family man Guzmano Ortiz gunned down as he slept, Sam asks about their other witness, Oscar Gonzalez. How safe is he?
Well, we got Oscar in the motel with a couple guys from Metro.
Yeah? How's he holding up?
Scared.
Yeah?
Bottom line is, no wits. Nobody knows. But everybody knows the family fled to Mexico.
Yeah.
Walking on the city sidewalk, just outside the grounds of the housing property, Sam looks to their right at a beautiful mural, a larger-than-life depiction of Our Lady of Guadalupe, skillfully painted in radiant colors on the building's west-facing wall. 15 feet high, painted as if she's floating 5 feet off the ground. Sam gestures to the beautiful painting.
What about her? She see anything?
She sees it all.
She ain't no snitch.
Investigators see a white donation plate beneath her hovering feet. 3 or 4 bills weighted down by maybe $1's worth of change in support of hope, the proverbial widow's mite. Humbly standing guard, a small white picket fence no higher than a man's knees dutifully shields this revered image. Taking a couple bills out of his pocket, Sam walks over to the donations plate. He adds the 2 bills to the others, weighing them down with a few coins already present.
Hey, you never know.
As the investigating officer gets into his black unmarked squad car, they all exchange the familiar, "See you back at RHD." In their own dark blue police-modified Ford Crown Victoria, Sergeant Sims drives as Sonia Robbins rides shotgun using their dash-mounted mobile computer to check the case file on last month's stolen motorcycles in Orange County. Robbins scans the case history file as Sims gets on the 110 Harbor Freeway northbound. A few moments into their drive, Sims asks Robbins if there's anything interesting. Frustrated, she shakes her head. Very little info. The case was dropped by the Orange County DA's office when the prosecution's star witness got cold feet. Whoa. Sims asks, "What's up?" Reading the screen, Robbins says in that case, the suspect's defense lawyer was none other than Elliot Ayers, the same man currently representing Termite Rosales. Hitting his left turn signal, Sims checks his blind spot, then smoothly slides into a faster lane, as Sonia Robbins uses the mobile computer to further research defense attorney Elliot Ayers.
Once back at Robbery Homicide Division, Detective Sonia Robbins prints out 2 copies of her background check on defense attorney Elliot Ayers. Keeping one for herself, she gives a copy to her immediate supervisor, Sam Cole. Referring to her notes from the crime scene, she tells Sam that the boys went to school here in L.A. 16-year-old Manny's high school transcripts might have or might soon have forwarding information. Sam tells Sonia she's got till end of business day. Otherwise, just like any other crime, they start with the victim and work their way out. With a quick nod, Sonia returns to her desk and gets to work. Sitting in his office, Sam reads Sonia's report on defense attorney Elliot Ayers. There appears to be a suspicious pattern in which, time after time, for one reason or another, the prosecution's star witness fails to appear, resulting in the DA's case being a mistrial. When a defense attorney has that type of luck, he ought to be playing the lottery. 2 hours later in Inglewood, at Thurgood Marshall Justice Plaza at the corner of Florence and La Brea, Detectives Sam Cole and Albert Sims take the elevator 3 stories below ground to L.A. County Jail, where they identify themselves and check their sidearms. Like all L.A. County jails, in terms of visibility, This facility guarantees zero expectation of privacy. A small room behind each door along the corridor, similar to most office layouts, but with one highly visible exception. Everything is transparent. Where most rooms are divided by walls, usually either wood grain or painted, here at the Visitation Center, its interview rooms, doors, walls, nearly everything is glass. Specifically, wire mesh polycarbonate safety glass, which affords unarmed guards clear line-of-sight observation of both inmates and visitors alike. If Superman's Fortress of Solitude had administrative offices, it would probably look like the LA County Jail Visitation Wing. Continuing down the hallway, it becomes narrow, only about 4 feet wide, and walking single file, Sam and Albert come to a stop at the window looking in on interview room B3, where inside the room, the internal door is solid steel with a small square-shaped window at head level. At the table, defense attorney Elliot Ayers sits across from Jesus Termite Rosales and another inmate, a large, muscle-bound Latino about 30 years of age with big Popeye-style forearms of solid oak beneath the short sleeves of his bright orange jumpsuit. And Sam Cole recognizes this guy.
I know that guy. The other one?
In concert with Ayers and Termite, this other thug gesticulates with large, powerful-looking hands, his fingers dancing with mischief, or something. Probably some type of enforcer. Even his neck muscles look pumped up. Out in the hallway, Albert Sims can tell his boss is trying to recall this guy's name, as, again, occupational habit, both detectives study his appearance. Nondescript short black hair, his thick bushy eyebrows and machismo mustache make a matching set, accompanying his rock-solid jaw. If not for his black hairnet, he might pass for an oversized Joseph Stalin. Finally, Sam remembers his name.
Alcaraz.
Alcaraz. Prison-sculpted body, apparently not an ounce of fat on his lean, worked-out physique. Even seated, he's taller than the other two men at the table. If standing, Alcaraz is probably, 6'2", maybe 280 pounds. No doubt, this inmate could easily kill a man with his bare hands, and the tattooed teardrop near his left eye suggests he already has. In the narrow hallway, Sam looks on the other side of Albert Sims, sees a 20-something sheriff deputy standing right outside the safety glass door. Larger than average himself, this youthful redhead is made slightly bigger by the stab vest beneath his sand-colored uniform shirt. Noticing the guard is carrying a manila folder in his right hand, Sam asks,
"Excuse me, deputy, do you have his transmittal?"
In this narrow hallway, the deputy hands it to the man nearest him, the big detective, Sergeant Sims, who begins reading. Sam Cole's face about 12 inches from the glass. He watches inside the interview room as the internal steel door opens and stays open while another guard enters, signaling the end of this visit. The two inmates and the lawyer all stand up and shake hands cordially. 3 bobbleheads nodding, their optimistic smiles in sync. Sam and Albert continue watching.
What's his street name?
Happy.
Happy, right. Aquino, Happy, Alcaraz. He's doing time in Pelican Bay. What the hell's he doing here?
It looks like Ayers had him flown down this morning to assist in preparation for the Jesus Rosales defense.
Huh.
Bidding their attorney farewell, the 2 orange-clad jail inmates follow the other sheriff deputy through the internal steel door, which automatically shuts behind them with a click. Collecting his paperwork, squaring its corners, and stashing resources in his briefcase, defense attorney Elliot Ayers stands up and exits through the outer door here in the hallway where the redhead guard and detectives are standing.
Ayers. Detective Cole. Hey, have a minute?
What can I do for you?
Let's go have a chat.
With friendly disposition, Sam ushers Elliot Ayers back into the soundproof interview room.
Sit down.
Albert Sims follows them in, allowing the safety glass door to close behind him, briefly steps over to the inside metal door, and checks the handle to ensure it's locked. Sam takes a seat, but Elliot Ayers remains standing, as does the big man, Albert Sims.
We were witness for the prosecution, who was very recently very dead.
I heard.
Ayers shakes his head.
When will it all end?
His grief dripping with sarcasm. Sam looks up at the attorney standing before him.
You were given a murder book by the DA with witnesses' names and addresses.
So? That's part of our discovery.
Are you being coerced? You into them for something?
Who says nothing, just shrugs his shoulders.
You need help? Ayers, it's easy to get in over your head. And these are very scary people, so...
Standing near the internal, heavy steel door, Detective Sims quietly watches the two men.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about.
We suspect your client had the witness killed.
That's an outrageous accusation.
It's happened before. We checked on you, Ayers. We found a pattern. Whether it's these clowns or Hoover Street Crips, witnesses get intimidated, won't testify, disappear.
Standing with his back to the door, Elliot Ayers looks down at Sam Cole.
You checked on me.
Hoping to lower the guard of his adversary, Sam acknowledges there could be an innocent explanation. Perhaps Ayers and Termite both reviewing the murder book on some unrelated issue, some exculpatory detail that might mitigate Termite's responsibility.
Okay. You leave it open on the table for your client to see, and you went to make a phone call.
Standing near the internal door, Albert Sims chimes in.
How else did they get the names?
How do I know? I don't have to explain anything to you.
They didn't get the names and addresses from the DA. They didn't find him in a fortune cookie. Oh. Look, counselor, I'm trying to help you, and you tell me a story. How do I know?
Lieutenant, help yourself to a good lawyer. You start accusing me, I will sue your ass.
Those witnesses got killed because you revealed their names to Termite for money, for drugs. You know what? There's no rock low enough you can crawl under where I won't find out about you.
With a smirk,
Really?
Ayers turns on a heel to leave, but Sam bolts up and intercepts him at the door.
Don't you walk away from me.
You enticed a man with the promise of a reward. The poor fool gets killed. It's painful. You lost.
Such callous disregard for human suffering.
You lost a man and the case. It happens.
There's only so much a lawman can take.
Excuse me.
And Sergeant Sims steps in front of Sam Cole, facing the attorney straight on.
Hey, come on.
The lieutenant quickly moves in between the two men. Cooler heads prevail, and the three men calm down. With a formal sweep of the hand, the lead detective politely grabs the handle of the safety glass door, pulls and holds it open for Ayers to depart. Wordlessly, the defense attorney's face congeals into a smug, closed-mouthed grin, and savoring the physical act of turning his back on the police, Elliot Ayers departs, briefcase in hand, walking in the direction of the far-off elevators. Now, just the two cops standing alone in the room, the investigating officer looks up at his physically imposing partner.
You almost blew.
But responding to his immediate supervisor, the elder man's breathing is calm.
Let's get in your way, Hoss. You almost blew.
Sam shrugs. As usual, his friend and subordinate Albert Sims is right. En route back to RHD, Albert Sims drives as Sam Cole checks his cell phone. A text message from Sonia Robbins, who's successfully tracked down the widow, Alma Ortiz, and her two sons, who have relocated to Juarez, Mexico. In response, Sam attaches a file, Sonia's background check on Elliot Ayers, and puts it in the following group message to his squad of 4 detectives. Sonia, you and I are going to Juarez. Travel request 2 round-trip tickets for ASAP. Barstow, start a tale on lawyer Elliot Ayers' current activities local. Where does he sleep, shower, and shave? What type of car does he drive? Any suspect or illegal habits? Ron, where are we with Organized Crime Task Force? Why do Russians want our washing machines? Just after sunset, no rest for the weary, and the 2 detectives return to a very busy robbery-homicide division. Sam always leaves his door open, and as they step off the elevator, even from the far end of the 4th floor, the lieutenant sees he's got a visitor waiting in his office, sitting in the guest chair in front of his desk. Sam recognizes Assistant DA Yolanda Lawrence, sitting with her back to the door, a sight which is rarely the harbinger of good news. Hurrying back to his own desk, the bald detective Ron Liu optimistically raises a yellow typed document in his hand.
I'm working a good lead. The informant guys at OCTF gave me.
That's good. Working quick.
Entering the room, the lieutenant takes off his sport coat.
Hey.
As ADA Lawrence glances up at him.
Ayers filed a new motion to dismiss.
He drapes the jacket over the back of his desk chair and remains standing.
We knew that was coming.
She wears a soft blue blouse beneath a dark gray blazer and a matching knee-length skirt.
We have no evidence, Sam. Our best witness is dead. It'd be better to drop the charges and have him dismissed by the judge.
We still have Oscar.
Do we?
Overworked but professional in appearance, the 37-year-old prosecutor's straight black hair is worn up in a simple bun.
How's this guy holding up now that his best friend's been executed?
Yolanda Lawrence remains seated.
You ever seen Ayers cross-examine a witness?
Feet slightly apart, hands on his hips, Sam stands with his back to the glass, which overlooks the twinkling city skyline.
Ayers gave Termite that man's name so his crew could take him out. He got him killed. We should be going after Ayers, not dropping charges against Termite.
Whatever was said or done in that room between Ayers and Termite is protected by attorney-client privilege.
It's conspiracy to murder?
She lets out a sigh, stands, and approaches Sam Cole.
Let me ask you something.
And they both stand facing each other next to the enormous window which looks out at the brightly lit exteriors of nearby buildings.
Let's say I go after Ayers, and I can prove that he gave Termite the witness ID. And I indict, and I try him and convict him. What happens then?
He goes to jail.
Wrong. He walks.
Folding her arms, she faces him directly.
It's only a misdemeanor.
What? Misdemeanor? A misdemeanor? He's not getting away with this.
Pointing an angry finger at her.
Don't rationalize away going after another lawyer with your technical mumble-jumble legal jibe.
Hey, you want to keep Ayers from getting away with this? You give me evidence.
The skinny, bald detective, Ron Liu, sticks his head in the door.
From Russia with love. 2 containers going out on a ship tonight. OCTF informant claims it's our merchandise.
Averaging 70 miles an hour southbound on the Harbor Freeway, Sam Cole drives as Ron Liu rides shotgun.
How much time have we got?
48 hours. Then it set sail for Murmansk.
How many containers?
18 possibles. Which one do you want to take?
When they arrive at Long Beach Port Authority's entrance C, Sam parks in a clearly marked space near Dock 11, where, exiting their unmarked squad car, detectives are met by Albert Sims and Sonia Robbins. Wearing dark blue uniforms and matching baseball caps, a dozen or so Customs and Border Protection agents are on hand to assist detectives with whatever they need. Access doors locked securely. 10 shipping containers are on static display, lined up, ready for inspection, as in the distance, carried by an 800-ton ship-to-shore gantry crane, 3 more cargo containers hovering 100 feet off the ground slowly approach from the east. Customs and Border Protection agents begin by assisting detectives with the first unit nearest them, container module C47-BB34. One of the CBP agents, a tall blonde woman with Scandinavian features, swipes her keycard to unlock its 8-foot-tall cargo doors, and detectives both open them as wide as possible. The tall CBP agent turns on the inside lights, and, clipboard in hand, Ron Liu walks inside with Sam Cole immediately behind him. 2 more agents wheel in some sort of a cart with a machine on it, a portable X-ray, to confirm Ron Liu's manifests against the contents of the sealed shipping boxes. Meanwhile, next door at container module C47-GH42, Sims and Robbins check that container's contents in similar fashion. With the aid of CBP cops, for the next 3 hours, detectives methodically check out all 18 containers using radiation monitors, X-ray, and other methods of non-destructive inspection. All that work in not a single washing machine. Mostly farming equipment, jet skis, and car engines. The closest they got was a reused Jiffy Home shipping box, a last-minute shipment of used computer equipment, monitors, hard drives, and motherboards, all fully accounted for in the enclosed manifest. Just no washing machines.
That's everything.
Tonight's lead was a bust.
No washing machines.
Sam's cell phone shows Richard Barstow, and he hits the green button.
Cole!
Sam, you better get back here right away. Oscar's freaking out. He's ready to bolt.
Put him on.
In the bathroom throwing up.
I'm on my way. Hey! Gotta go!
20 minutes later, at the intersection of Sunset and Highland, the investigating officer parks in the parking lot of the Siesta Motel, quickly ascends the external staircase, and knocks on the door to room 313, where witness Oscar Gonzalez is under the protection of Detective Richard Barstow, who opens the door and greets Sam Cole.
Where is he?
Bathroom.
As he waits for Oscar, Sam checks out this small economy motel room. 2 queen-size beds with matching brown bedspreads, a wall-mounted TV over a wood-grain chest of drawers, and a notepad and pen on a small wooden table next to a dark green armchair. Exhausted, the 46-year-old witness exits the bathroom.
Mr. Gonzalez.
I want to go.
Oh, we need you to stay, Mr. Gonzalez.
Both men stand facing each other, Sam's feet slightly apart with his hands on his hips, directly facing Oscar, who half leans against the dark green armchair behind him.
Oh, we need you to stay.
What for? I already told you what happened.
Well, we took your statement, but we need your testimony in court.
We hid in the closet. We heard these shots. We left.
Well, did he just say shots, plural?
I already identified the man who did this. What more do you want from me?
You heard the shots?
Yes, I told you.
Did you hear all 3 shots?
Yes.
Security guard Clayton Ellis was shot right near the cleaning closet in which Oscar and Guzmano were hiding, about 10 feet from the yellow safety gate. Sam keeps his cool.
Okay, so when you finally felt safe enough to leave the closet, where did you see the guard's body?
Why are you asking me this?
Did you see the guard's body?
I did.
He didn't?
Okay. Which door did you leave by? Was it the one by the gate?
Yeah, that must have been it.
Sam takes a step closer as Oscar steps back, dropping into the armchair.
What if I told you you'd have tripped over the body to get through that door?
Leaning forward on the chair's armrests, Sam's eyes are just 3 inches from Oscar's.
Oscar. Oscar, tell me the truth. Were you even there?
Now in tears, Oscar quietly shakes his head, no. Sam's fist smacks the table.
Oscar! You weren't there!
As if spring-loaded, Sam Cole's body snaps back to standing upright.
Damn it! What have you done? Oscar, you weren't even there! Terminator and his putos did this!
The detective gestures furiously.
How do you know you weren't even there? Everybody knows. How? Everybody knows. We needed the reward. I can still go through with this. I'll give half, more than half to Guzmano's family. I can do it. I can.
Resisting temptation to take out his gun and shoot this man, Sam Cole storms out of the room, and as the door slowly closes automatically, Barstow wordlessly locks the deadbolt and turns on the news.
To have heard on live television the Judiciary Committee special counsel's reading from newspapers day after day.
Back at RHD, most of the 4th floor is now dark, and with a heavy sigh, Sam steps behind his desk, takes a seat, and turns on his desk light. He stares out the window at the city lights below. A few minutes pass, maybe 10. Swiveling in his chair, he opens his lap drawer, spots the St. Christopher medallion of their murdered witness, Guzmano Ortiz. Picking it up by its chain, Sam looks at Mr. Ortiz's pendant, lets it hang. Just as Assistant DA Yolanda Lawrence had predicted, defense attorney Elliot Ayers' motion to dismiss was successful, and Jesus Termite Rosales is set to be released today at 12 noon and back on the streets roughly 30 minutes to an hour thereafter. And of course, it's all accompanied by a major civil suit against the city. Sam lets out a frustrated sigh. Quote, "Defeat is a state of mind. No one is defeated until defeat is accepted as a reality." Unquote. Bruce Lee. But contrary to what these clowns think, this is not over, and for Sam Cole, the game is on. 12:30 p.m. Men's Central Jail, 441 Bochette Street, Los Angeles, California, 90012. Even though the investigating officer has been officially informed via email, he needs to see this injustice with his own eyes. Sort of an internal need some detectives experience when some perp's about to be set free. In the sun-baked parking lot of the inmate release facility, Sam Cole's been standing half-leaning against the front end of his unmarked squad car, occasionally propping a foot on its push-bumper grill guard as he watches calmly the release facility's front main entrance, or exit, depending on one's perspective. 3 years ago, he had been smoking a cigarette, but as of the new millennium, Sam Cole... Just then, he sees Ayers and Termite exit the building, laughing with a celebratory exchange of pats on the back and handshakes. When Sam checks his wristwatch, it's 12:32 p.m. Running out of lawful options, the investigating officer elects the staring match. If nothing else, wherever these murderous scumbags go, whatever they do, Lieutenant Cole wants them to know they're being watched. And the veteran detective knows how to do it lawfully without incurring the wrath of internal affairs. So for the moment, rather than follow them, Sam stays put, watching as the two villains disappear into a sea of parked cars. See You Dad, Juarez, Mexico. Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. local time. Sam drives their Payless rental car down an uneven and broken road as, sitting in the passenger seat, Detective Sonia Robbins translates driving directions to Granja Robles, a modest little farm owned by Alma's parents. At some point, the road becomes less dirt and more gravel, causing for a bumpier ride as Sam stops to let a woman on horseback cross in front of their car. Rows and rows of tires neatly stacked by the side of the road. A yellow pickup truck parked about 50 feet from where a man sits smoking a cigarette. A group of 5 or 6 kids walks a dog on a leash, but without a sidewalk. Having finally located the correct address, detectives park the car and turn off the engine, take a few moments collecting their paperwork, then exit the rented vehicle. Approaching the dilapidated structure, Sam opens a flimsy sheet metal door, and the two enter the small barn where they're surrounded by a few dozen happy-looking, uncaged chickens walking around freely. At the far side of the interior, standing about 5'6", the 46-year-old widow sprinkles chicken feed as her teenage son Manny fills 2 large plastic bottles with water while hovering protectively in the presence of his mother.
Mrs. Ortiz, I'm Lieutenant Cole. This is Detective Robbins.
Detectives present their badge and police ID.
Senora, we came here because the man responsible for your husband's murder has been released from prison.
Esta vida es un velo de lágrimas.
Detective Sonia Robbins nods her head with empathy.
This life is a veil of tears.
And Alma shoots her an angry look.
If you saw the men who killed your husband, your tears can bring them to justice.
Manny translates for his mother.
¿Y después qué?
It's true. And then what?
Soy una mujer campesina y no me importa la justicia.
Alma says, I am a peaceful woman. I don't care about justice.
I'm a peaceful woman. I don't care about the justice.
A nadie le importa la justicia más que
Nobody cares more about justice than gangbangers these days. That's all they think about all day. Who owes what punishment to who? Alma is tired of this world.
She's tired of this world.
Sam chooses his words carefully.
Your husband's body is still in the morgue, and
El cuerpo de mi papá todavía está en Los Ángeles.
can help bring him
¿Lo pueden
home.
traer para acá?
No, no lo quiero. Que se quede ahí en la morgue
Let him
con
stay in the
nosotros.
morgue with all the other brilliant thinkers.
Mira lo que nos hizo.
Look at what he did to us. She turns on a heel.
Senora,
Sam reaches into his pocket,
I brought this.
removes her husband's St. Christopher medal, and offers it to the angry widow.
Yeah, Papa.
Alma gratefully accepts the medal.
Good luck to you and your sons. And if you ever need anything,
He gives her his LAPD business card. And the two detectives politely take their leave.
Si le damos algo que le llamemos.
Thank you.
Cole and Robbins nod to Alma and her 16-year-old son Manny before walking back out to their Payless rental car. Next, LAPD Travel and Lodging has approved 2 motel rooms, but currently just coming up on 1 p.m. Both native Angelinos agree they'd rather be home in LA. And so it is. Their duffel bags in hand, they return to CJS Gonzalez International Airport Juarez and book the next flight back to the City of Angels. After sharing a surprisingly good in-flight pizza, the 2 Aeromexico passengers check for text messages, then let food coma run its course, managing to get in a few hours sleep before their landing gear wheels hit the runway back at LAX. 9:30 p.m. Now back in Los Angeles, once again in their plain black unmarked squad car. Sam is behind the wheel with Sonia in the passenger seat, and with LAX in the rearview mirror, the 2 detectives head northbound on the 110 Harbor Freeway. And when they arrive back at RHD, Sam pulls up to the curb nearest where Sonia usually parks her own car.
You in the slot? Yeah, but I'm gonna go up to the office.
Oh, good. I approve of nobody having a life.
It's late, and the downtown LA street is strangely quiet.
What are you gonna do?
Prowl the night and hunt for justice.
An easy laugh as she exits the vehicle. Sonia and Sam both know he is completely serious. He watches Sonia approach the entrance. Still parked curbside, Sam gets a text message from Richard Barstow. Elliot Ayers is driving a silver Cadillac Seville convertible. Barstow includes its complete license plate, and Sam mentally notes its last 3 digits as 297. When he sees Detective Sonia Robbins safely enter the building, Sam pulls out, heading north on Spring Street. In about 30 minutes, and with the aid of other LAPD resources, Sam has tracked down the luxury 4-door currently heading westbound on the 10 freeway coming from the Inland Empire. As Sam drives closer, sure as spit, silver Cadillac convertible, plates ending in 297. Keeping with the flow of traffic, the detective moves his black unmarked squad car in front of the luxury sedan and gradually slows to 65 miles an hour. Ayers cannot be sure who he's following, but with the rooftop antenna and the spotlight at the driver's side door, it's obvious he's behind a police unit. Signaling with his blinker, Sam Cole makes another lane change to his right, slows briefly, pulling up along the passenger side of the silver Cadillac. When Ayers glances out his passenger window, he recognizes Sam Cole, and the defense attorney mocks laughter, shaking his head dismissively. With his signature smug grin, he waves girlishly at Sam Cole, wiggling his fingers, toodaloo. Careful not to tailgate, Sam follows Ayers down the off-ramp, then east on 7th. After a left turn at Flower, Ayers parks at the edge of the property of Cafe Pinot, and 2 spots down, actually closer to the front door, Sam Cole does same. Located at Flower and 5th, the high-priced restaurant is adjacent to the enormous LA Public Library, currently closed at this late hour. Exiting his vehicle, Lieutenant Cole is approached by a 20-something Latino parking attendant.
No, thank you.
Sam shows his badge and says no thank you. The detective's feet spread comfortably as he stands on the sidewalk facing the restaurant, his back facing Flower Street's nighttime traffic. Lieutenant Cole looks up the street and watches Elliot Ayers slowly get out of his car. The detective stands on the curb and waits patiently as Elliot Ayers walks up. For a moment, the 2 men stand there on the sidewalk, 3 feet apart, just staring at each other. Sam with his arms crossed, Elliot Ayers hands in his pockets.
You keep following me around, you're gonna get the city in one hell of a lawsuit. What do you want?
You. Scoffing.
You're gonna make me a rich man, Cole.
The defense attorney turns around and, tossing his keys to the valet, saunters casually into the expensive restaurant. Sam spots a tiny parking slip under the Cadillac's windshield wiper, and as a red-vested parking valet gets behind the wheel, Sam stops him.
Hang on.
Sam runs up to the car, grabs the tiny slip off the windshield, and studies it carefully. SPPA. What does that stand for? Silmar Parole. He takes the phone call, still looking at this parking slip.
Cole.
The cargo containers on the ship are a bust, but the harbor police found the 2 white trucks abandoned.
SPPA?
What?
San Pedro Port Authority. Hey, tell them to leave everything as it is.
Sam takes the 110 Harbor Freeway south all the way down to the ocean, follows the road as it bends to the left, and crossing the Vincent Thomas Bridge, Lieutenant Cole arrives at San Pedro Port Authority just before 11 p.m. Driving past the boardwalk of locked, unattended cargo containers, Lieutenant Cole drives to an empty lot off to the side, where law enforcement activity is heralded by yellow crime tape and flashing red lights. LA Harbor Police, their black and white squad cars surrounding two isolated, all-white cargo containers, with their rear doors fully open, exposing large, square-shaped cardboard shipping boxes, unopened, each shrouded in a loose plastic tarp. In his rearview mirror, Lieutenant Cole spots Sims and Robbins parking their own dark blue squad car in the nearest available spot, about 20 feet behind him. On Sam's left, wearing the dark blue uniform of the LA Harbor Police, a mustachioed African-American officer walks up to the driver's side door, and the two officers exchange a respectful nod. Identified by the embroidered name tag above his right breast pocket, P. Stevens steps back to make room as Sam exits the vehicle.
Lieutenant Cole?
Yeah.
Now joined by Detective Sims and Robbins,
We've already been around the trucks with the dogs and the radiation monitors.
the group looks at the two open cargo containers, ad hoc illuminated by spotlights from the surrounding squad cars.
Afraid we already messed up your crime scene.
What'd you guys find?
A whole lot of washing machines.
They look at the large boxes inside, each with its bright green Jiffy Home label.
Washing machines.
You still here?
Instead of being neatly stacked and flush against the inside walls of the container, the unopened boxes are separated and moved apart at odd angles. Sam points his light at the locking handle on the container's large open cargo door.
Did you guys open these?
No, sir.
Found them like this.
Just like that.
Sam climbs inside and takes a few seconds removing the plastic tarp. The boxes are too strong for Sam to tear with his bare hands, and he asks Officer Stevens,
Yeah, box cutter?
Yeah.
Then using the box cutter near the top of the box, the investigating officer cuts a hole in the cardboard a little larger than the car's steering wheel. Carefully stowing the box cutter, he grabs his flashlight, closely looks inside, and sees the metal casing has been cut open, exposing a cluster of wires and cables which have been deliberately severed, apparently to remove some other component before resealing the box to cover evidence of tampering.
Nobody's coming back for these.
Here at the San Pedro shipping dock, for the moment, no one present can readily identify whatever parts were removed or why. But back at RHD, Detectives Ron Liu and Richard Barstow have spent the past 2 hours researching these very issues. And when the elevator doors open on the 4th floor, naturally Sonia exits first, followed by Sam, then Albert. Standing up at his desk, Ron Liu comes around to greet them, and as the 4 law enforcement officers head towards Sam's office, Ron poses a question. What do the most expensive household appliances, such as Jiffy Home washing machines, have in common with obsolete coal mining technology? Albert Sims says it's obsolete, who cares?
Those appliances have high-end microprocessors. That's why they jack up the price.
Computer motherboards.
Like the ones that went on that ship right under our noses. Your informant was right.
Next stop, Azerbaijan. Now, those boards can be adapted to run all sorts of equipment. Russian mob will make $1,000 a piece on those things.
Termite did well.
Excuse me, termite? It's one thing to go from street dealing to a sophisticated heist, but stripping out motherboards and shipping them to Azerbaijan? I don't think so.
Yeah. What's wrong with this picture?
The group all files into Sam's office. They see Richard Barstow standing at the fax machine reading the top sheet.
Hey, Barstow.
Listen to this. Ayers represented 2 mobbed-up Russians in a criminal trial last year.
Taking off his jacket, Sam drapes it over the back of his chair and takes a seat.
You got it. 2 mobbed-up Russians, Dmitry Petrovac and Vladimir Petrosian.
Vladimir connects termite
Through Ayers.
the one who has access to all the players, who can have privileged communication with them, arrange meetings.
Leaving the room, Ron Liu walks over to his desk.
Communication with them, arrange meetings, pass messages. Give them the names of witnesses against them.
Ayers is the middleman.
And we got nothing on them. No proof, no nothing.
Standing in the doorway.
Someone here to see you, LT.
When Detective Ron Liu steps to the side.
Okay.
The Latino teenager behind him removes his Lakers ball cap, revealing a simple homemade crew cut. Sam and Sonia instantly recognize 16-year-old Manny Ortiz from the other day in Juarez. Sam comes around from behind his desk.
Hey.
Shakes hands with Manny Ortiz.
How you doing?
And as the two step outside the office for a bit of privacy, Sonia lingers within earshot, ostensibly if needed to interpret.
I came about my father's body.
Okay. Good. Detective Robbins?
Detective Robbins steps forward.
Can you take Manny down to the coroner and arrange for the release of his father's body?
With a gentle hand on the teen's back, she nods to the distant elevator. A grateful Manny Ortiz, looking up at Sam Cole.
Thanks for helping.
Sure.
Manny starts to follow her, but he looks back at Sam. When he stops walking, his eyes still locked on Sam Cole's. The lieutenant walks up to the teen and puts his hand on Manny's shoulder.
You came a long way, son. And I think maybe you didn't just come to get your father's body. Maybe you came to bear witness.
Looking up at Sam Cole, the 16-year-old nods his head yes, to bear witness. And unlike Oscar Gonzalez, Manny Ortiz was actually present when Termite's gunman killed his father. As the witness who was physically present when his father was murdered, Manny filing a police report is certainly helpful, but without more evidence, Sam Cole cannot arrest the man just on the hearsay of a 16-year-old. However, as a known gang member with a violent history, Jesus Termite Rosales can be put under surveillance to ensure compliance with his parole. And the following day, Surveillance Services Division coordinates with Undercover, and while he's in public view, the criminal's every move is documented, not least of which, hanging out smoking cigarettes and jaw-jacking with his brother Sleepy Rosales, same kid spotted by Barstow the other night and detained briefly by Detective Sims. In this case, the wheels of justice move fast, and the following morning using the glare of the early sunrise to their advantage. 3 unmarked squad cars, and like before, they park just down the hill, full stealth mode, radios silent. Sam Cole leads another Kevlar-clad SWAT team to the front door of Jesus Termite Rosales.
What is the parole? Open up! Back up! Back up!
Doing this again?
We are doing this again! Back up!
They're out. Face the wall. Face the wall.
When Termite complies, Sam Cole handcuffs him.
Jesus Rosales, you are under arrest for being in violation of your parole conditions.
They'll need to check his wristwatch. According to the schedule, those 2 newly arrived black and whites in the driveway indicate the exact time is 7:55 a.m.
What are you talking about? I'm clean. Go ahead. Do your search. Do your search.
And the investigating officer shows Termite a glossy photo from yesterday's surveillance.
Do your search. Associated with a known gang member. That's Sleepy. That's my brother.
Escorted outside to waiting squad cars, the handcuffed parolee is taken downtown for questioning. Two hours later, after mugshot, blood, and urine tests, Jesus Termite Rosales is furious, though uncuffed, as he sits at a metal table bolted into the green and white tiled floor of interview room C. His face registering unveiled hatred, Termite quietly assesses his situation. Standing near the open door, in a way blocking Termite's only escape, a couple of plainclothes cops with their backs turned compare notes. Literally. Investigating Officer Sam Cole holds an open manila folder and shows it to his enormous counterpart, Detective Albert Sims. Most likely the police report formally charging Termite with a parole violation. The minute Termite signs it and he's formally charged, at that point they are required to call his attorney, Elliot Ayers. It's probably why cops are dragging their feet. They want to keep him here longer. Termite's thinking, let's get this show on the road. Are we going to charge him or not? Lowering his voice to where it's barely audible, the angry parolee growls at the cops.
If you violated me, violate me. Otherwise, what the hell am I doing here?
Parole violation will get you another year of joint, smartass.
I gotta take a bullet. It ain't right.
Pulling out a chair, The investigating officer takes a seat across from Termite. As behind Sam, Albert Sims closes the door and remains standing. Opening the manila folder, Sam pulls out 3 sheets, laying them side by side in front of the parolee, each about an inch apart. Keeping his hands in his lap and not saying a word, Termite stares at 3 glossy 8.5 by 11-inch photos, each with its own time-stamped evidence mark at the bottom right corner. And finally, the angry parolee just asks,
What's up with this, Holmes?
Just some gutted washing machines.
Keeping his hands on his lap, Termite regards the 3 glossy 8.5 by 11 photos, each with its own time-stamped evidence mark at the bottom right corner. Portrait orientation, each image of a Jiffy Home washing machine. And in each image, cutting to the top of its soft yellow metal housing, an ugly rectangle-shaped hole with jagged edges violates an otherwise smooth surface. With perfect focus, positioned just beneath the hole, a well-placed standard measuring ruler, fulfilling its intended function, reports the opening as about 16 inches wide by 10 inches tall. With an abracadabra flourish, Sam produces another 8.5 by 11, but not a photo. Some sort of transparency. Looks like a gray, hazy spreadsheet with the name Jesus Rosales above a dozen or so columns at different levels with varying shades of monochrome. Standing tall over the table, Detective Sims reaches down.
That is your DNA.
And indicates at the top of the transparency.
It's your name, Jesus Rosales. It's your DNA. But that's what you should be worried about, because maybe, just maybe, you didn't get a chance to clean up those crates the way you did at warehouse.
And when the lab results come back, about...
He checks his wristwatch.
2 hours, there's going to be a transparency, just like this one. And when I put that one over yours, and it matches, they're done.
But there's some good news.
There's good news.
There's good news.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a lawyer. Ayers. Ayers makes the connections, hooks you up.
Mockingly.
With your homeboys in the joint.
Termite's mouth stretches into a dismissive smile. But Detective Cole presses.
You think he works for you. Think again. Who's working for who?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You do all the work. You take all the risk. You stain your hands with blood. Ayers takes his cut.
Yeah. The money goes through Ayers. And what makes you think you even know how much the heist is worth?
And he bills you for legal fees. Come on. Who's working for who? You're a knucklehead. You're just a knuckleheaded 13th Street gangster who's moved up to robbery and homicide. Ayers abuses the law. So it's your lucky day. I want him so bad. I'm willing to give you a pass on this warehouse.
Termite leans across the table as close as he can get to Sam's face.
You get nothing on me.
The investigating officer strums the table, stands up, and wordlessly walks out the door. Sergeant Sims opens both hands, palms facing up. Disappointment.
Lieutenant's having a bit of a bad day here.
Regrettably, one by one, Sims retrieves the photos of the lobotomized washing machines and puts them back in the manila folder.
But you know, you can't get a year of your life back, Termite. But you can always get another lawyer.
Instead of formally charging Jesus Rosales with a parole violation, detectives keep him at the station until 3 p.m., at which point he's released to the custody of his attorney, Elliot Ayers. Later that night, Elliot Ayers returns to Termite's home in Toluca Lake at about 8:30 p.m. The lawyer carries an unopened box in his left hand, a state-of-the-art telephone answering machine capable of recording complete telephone conversations between both parties. Opening the door, Termite Rosales wears a dark blue zip-up hoodie with its top down over faded denim blue jeans and black and white high-top sneakers. Termite leaves the door open and wordlessly walks back inside, as Ayers follows, closing the door behind him. Something's off. Ayers notices an unusual silence in the house. Where's Termite's girlfriend, Rosie? No crying baby? Termite's facial expression's always angry, so it's hard to read the parolee when he doesn't say anything. As before, the brightly lit room is extravagantly decorated and looks like a page out of a furniture catalog. On the left, a two-piece corner unit couch sofa with a polished coffee table in front of it. On the couch unit's accompanying corner table, the telephone sits next to a digital clock and the TV remote. Over near the window, a baby blue blanket draped on the arm of a large brown leather armchair with a baby bottle nearly empty on the floor next to it. At the right side of the room, Termite stands near the unused fireplace. On its mantel, his car keys and wallet, an open box cutter, an open bottle of Pacifico Cerveza, next to which an uncharacteristically domestic-looking framed family portrait of Termite and his girlfriend Rosie Alvarado holding their baby on her lap. But before the attorney can install the telephone answering machine, the angry 29-year-old gangbanger says he's fed up with this garbage. He just spent the entire day at RHD being interrogated by cops, and where the expletive was his expletive defense attorney, huh?
What are you moaning about? I got you out of there in record time.
Picking up the family portrait.
And you got a major civil suit against the city?
Ayers looks at it.
Big payday, huh?
But Termite grabs it out of his hand and puts it back on the mantel near the open box cutter.
How much did you take back off the warehouse job?
What do you mean?
What, is English your second language?
What are you, renegotiating your deal?
How much did you take?
The answer to you.
Oh, but I have to answer to you? Huh, homeboy?
Look, why don't you try it yourself? Why don't you find the jobs, you set them up, find the fences, oh, and you keep your sorry ass out of prison.
Oh, yeah, you do it all, right? Then why do I got the Huda coming down on my back? Why do I got the police coming after my ass?
Born under a bad sign. Life sucks. Darwin, I don't know. But you'd be on the corner hawking street crack if it wasn't for me.
And when do I get a bigger cut?
Another couple of big warehouses will talk.
Noticing the unopened sealed box in Elliot Ayers' hand.
You gonna hook that up?
Yeah. You gonna stop complaining?
Yeah.
Led by Sam Cole and his detectives, about a dozen uniformed officers enter the room from all directions.
Elliot Ayers, you are under arrest for criminal conspiracy and murder.
As he's handcuffed by uniformed cops, the corrupt attorney turns to look at Sam Cole.
This is a privileged client-attorney meeting, Cole.
Privilege rests with your client.
The investigating officer walks over to Termite
and your client
unzips his hoodie.
He waved it,
revealing a tiny wired microphone taped to his chest. Termite glares at his attorney.
Your ass is fired, Holmes.
Detectives got what they came for. Elliot Ayers' audio-recorded confession of the warehouse job, his intent to do other warehouses, and Ayers' part in the conspiracy of the predicate felony murder of security guard Clayton Ellis. Exactly what ADA Yolanda Lawrence needs to secure a conviction. Elliot Ayers is done. The following Thursday morning, headquarters, LAPD, 100 West 1st Street, downtown LA, 90012. The investigating officer Sam Cole exits the building through its doors on Spring Street. Rather than drive, Sam begins the 10-minute walk to the Vignes Detention Facility. A text message from a very appreciative Assistant DA, Yolanda Lawrence. Sam, I ask for evidence and you hand-deliver a taped confession? Fantastic job. Respect. Yolanda. Sam smiles. Wait till she sees the video. When it comes to a crosswalk, Sam hits the palm-sized yellow button and waits for the light. And Yolanda's right, of course. It's hard enough getting a suspect to confess, but to get it on tape, and in a strange way, they have Termite Rosales to thank for it. Elliot Ayers candidly admitting to setting up the jobs and finding the fences. And in the same conversation, Elliot Ayers' own words, what are you, renegotiating your deal? Your deal. In this context, that's called conspiracy, specifically in the warehouse burglary, which resulted in the predicate felony murder of security guard Clayton Ellis. There's the pedestrian sign. Sam steps off the curb and resumes walking north on Spring Street. Elliot Ayres will also be charged as an accomplice in the murder of their reluctant witness, warehouse janitor Guzmano Ortiz, which, while related to the warehouse burglary, the DA's office has agreed to prosecute as a separate case. Technically, filing charges is at the discretion of LAPD, and it's not in the hands of the prosecutor until Sam Cole formally files charges with the DA's office. And before that happens, the veteran defense attorney Elliot Ayres has asked to meet with the investigating officer before Sam kicks it upstairs to Yolanda. About 20 minutes later, Sam finds himself in another interview room, sitting across the table from an inmate, this time Elliot Ayres.
You think you won?
Sam looks around this tiny room, back at Elliot Ayres in his orange short-sleeve jumpsuit.
What do you want?
I believe I have an excellent chance at acquittal. You say I broke the rules, I say you did. By stalking me, using lying witnesses against my client, then deceiving him in order to entrap me.
Jury will not see it that way.
Maybe. You have to admit your case has some problems. I'm willing to make a deal that will benefit us both.
What would that be?
I have information. Lots of it. I can clear cases. Class A felony convictions. Cole. Cutting a deal with me and getting killers off the street, or if you win your case, sending me to prison where I'll give free legal advice to the people you work so hard to put away? Cole, this is the game.
Not mine. I just put bad guys away. That's it. No deal.
And with not another word, Sam stands up, leaves the room, and makes his way back to Robbery Homicide. Later that afternoon, it's 2 p.m. on the 4th floor as Detectives Sonia Robbins and Albert Sims are finalizing the paperwork on Termite Rosales' immunity deal. The gang member turned criminal informant has been assigned Public Defense Attorney John Palomino, and any minute now the two are scheduled to come in and sign a written statement, then begin reviewing phone calls between Elliot Ayres. Just then, the elevator doors open, and as Termite and his new lawyer approach, Sonia picks up her desk phone and hits extension 6.
Sam, he's here.
The largest man in the room, Sergeant Sims, stands up.
Hey, man!
And receptively welcomes them.
Thanks for coming down.
Sims and Termite shake hands just as Sam Cole exits his office and approaches this triumphant group.
Termite!
Among all the handshakes,
What's up?
Sam puts forth his right hand.
Ready to work the phone records between you and Ayres?
Termite grabs it.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
And Sam quickly wrenches the parolee's arm behind his back.
Hey, this was Alice. You were under arrest.
As Sonia applies the handcuffs.
Come on, we had a deal! We did. Hey, my client had a deal with the warehouse.
This isn't the warehouse. This is about our witness.
You're under arrest for the murder of Guzmano Ortiz. Guzmano Ortiz. Someone came forward.
Nobody came forward.
Yes, they did. A living witness.
Made a positive ID on the crew you sent to his house to kill him.
And two of your crew, Paco and Ignacio, both gave you up.
No, my homeboys don't do that.
Connor, they did. You are done.
Jesus Rosales, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say.
Two more uniforms show up and forcibly escort Termite back to the elevator, with his lawyer, John Palomino, following.
You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed.
And while legally this case is closed, Sam has one more task to complete. Two men stand on a tarmac, watching the body of witness Guzmano Ortiz being loaded onto an Aeromexico plane. Sam Cole rests a comforting hand on the shoulder of 16-year-old Manny Ortiz. If Manny cannot bring back his father with justice, then at least he can send him home with dignity. concludes our spoken word audio production of Robbery Homicide Division, Season 1, Episode 7, City of Strivers. Original TV air date, 8 November 2002. Directed by Rod Hardy. Written by Vince Gilligan. City of Strivers. Performed by the following actors. Lieutenant Sam Cole was played by Tom Sizemore. Jesus Termite Rosales, played by Raymond Cruz. Detective Sonia Robbins, played by Clea Scott. Detective Albert Sims, played by Barry Shabaka Henley. Detective Richard Barstow, played by David Cubitt. Detective Ron Liu, played by Michael Paul Chan. Defense Attorney Elliot Ayers, played by William Russ. Warehouse worker Oscar Gonzalez, played by Jesse Garcia. Warehouse janitor Guzmano Ortiz, played by Lou Casal. Housewife Alma Ortiz, played by Lucy Vargas. 16-year-old Manny Ortiz, played by Miguel Castro. And ADA Yolanda Lawrence, played by Mia Korf. Original music Tierra del Sur by Marcus Nand and Zerok, provided by Entertainment One Distribution, US. Original TV episode music by Doug DeAngelis and Kevin Haskins. The program you just heard features additional Creative Commons music courtesy of YouTube Audio Library. The tracks Dark Memory, New Toys, and Lurking by Silent Partner. Hurt So Good Blues by the Unicorn Heads. Future Gladiator by Kevin MacLeod. Licensed by Creative Commons Attribution License 4.0. Incompetech.com. Music royalty free. Supplemental spoken word audio narration, independently produced at Project Wasabi Studios, Hollywood, California, 90028. Written and recorded by Brian Newberry. Special thanks to cultural consultant Paula Doulier. If you enjoyed this radio drama, City of Strivers, we invite you to share it on social media. Strivers.projectwasabi.com. For more free spoken word audio dramas, as well as non-fiction documentary podcasts, visit us online at projectwasabi.com. On behalf of Project Wasabi, this is Brian Newberry saying thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.